This is VOCM Open Line. Call now to get in the queue. 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's your host, Brian Callahan.
Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Open Line. I am Brian Callahan along with David Williams producing the program, and the numbers to call, of course, to join me for a chat here today. 1-709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-VOCM. That's 8626. And, of course, you can always email, of which we received a ton yesterday. And I'll get into that in a minute. Many on one topic in particular. That's open line at VOCM.com. So still pretty cool and foggy around these parts as we wait with breathless anticipation for the consistent summer breezes. It's pretty drizzly and rainy today and maybe a little bit more tomorrow before the temps expected to gradually creep up this week. But not before, mind you, a mid-May dose of reality for the West Coast. So there's a special weather statement up for the Corner Brook area and vicinity. And this pretty much covers from tonight until tomorrow night. So over that span, anywhere from 5 centimeters to 20 centimeters. Yes, this is May the 12th. I'm saying this. Not unheard of course, but still kind of gives you a little jolt when you're in for that. And this will be a West Coast event mostly, certainly near the Corner Brook area. You know, from the, so the 5 to 20 centimeters. So 5 will be in the lower lying areas, of course, in the coastline, with lesser amounts to the higher terrain and correspondingly higher amounts. And I think the deadline to change off, take off the studded tires is, I think it's this Friday. So that's some fortuitous timing there. That is, if you still have them on. And you can hear it, or if, of course, when the cars are going by with the window down, you can hear the studs on a lot of tires still. But yeah, Friday, I think, is today for that. So, sports, yeah. So let's quick check in. So the Habs and Sabres, of course, are back at it tonight for Game 4 of the second round of the playoffs. Habs up 2-1, of course, thanks in large part to the sniping prowess of one Alex Newhook. He's got, I think, 6 points now, 5 goals in playoffs and assists. And, of course, the solid goaltending of one Jakub Jobic. And I mentioned yesterday the miss by the refs when he got run over. The miss, I should say, by the refs when he got run over Sunday night by Beck Malenstein of the Sabres. There was collective shock, I think, when he was only called for a 2-minute goalie interference penalty. If interference means slamming right into Jobic with no effort to slow up, okay. I felt like there had to be something more there. And later yesterday, lo and behold, Malenstein was indeed fined for that hit. And that's fine, no pun intended, but I'm sure a 5-minute major would have been more appropriate in the moment when anyway. In the end, it didn't matter as far as the outcome was concerned, but I guess at least that hit has been recognized for what it was. Unnecessary, over the top. Frustration, I guess, the way the game was going. Attempt to, stem the tide, try to interrupt the momentum that the Habs made, maybe take out the guy who's been stymieing them. So Malenstein docked about $3,500. I'm sure that'll break him. And it's really inconsequential at this point. The only thing that would have really made a difference, make him sit a game. But now there's no, and that would be real consequence as well. The Habs, Arbor Jacki got hit with a little less, $3,400 over that play late in the third when he punched Sabres Sam Carrick in a scrum. And elsewhere, the Avs now have a 3-1 series stranglehold against the Wild. I say that the Wild could still have potential there. They've got their spurts, but the Ducks and Golden Knights are tied 2-2 and back at it tonight as well. All this as the Carolina Hurricanes sit back and depending on how you look at it, they're either getting a good rest up and healing some injuries or gathering dust and rust with the long layoff. We'll see what happens when they the ice again for their next round. Also some weird and odd communication coming from the PWHL, the Professional Women's Hockey League, last night in Laval. So Game 5 between the Montreal Victoire and Minnesota Frost, that's been rescheduled for tonight. It was supposed to be played last night. But the game was postponed just a couple of hours beforehand due to, quote, player safety concerns related to illness. So that was the early statement, which, of course, raised eyebrows. What's going on? immediately harkens back to anyone who wanted to connect the dots in their head. Go back to COVID when all the professional sports, teams started the league started shutting down over that. Now again, hantavirus is not COVID, and we've been repeatedly, and not me saying it, it's the experts from the WHO to everyone else in any position of authority and medical background. I mean, it is not the same thing. That said, it does nothing but jar us back to that time when all of these sorts of things started happening. So you can't blame anyone for being a little nervous, and of course the league for taking precautions. The statement in this case, decision was made following consultation with medical personnel and in accordance with the league's commitment to health and safety, well-being of the players, fans, and all those involved. But nowhere in the initial statement did it mention what in the hell was going on. Then later, it stated again, the medical assessments determined the symptoms of all ill players or staff, quote, are not consistent with hantavirus. So there it was. Once we saw that that's what they were alluding to. So comms can be a little bit gray area at first. You want it to be as clear and concise. Here's what we're talking about. So still not clear if someone's linked to the 10 Canadians who are isolating as a result of the hantavirus, or, which is now headed back to its home port in the Netherlands, of course, or if it was just a bug going around the team, the Montreal Victoire, and this was all just being out of, as we all know the term now, abundance of caution. Which it seems was the case, because there are reports now that several players on the Victoire had flu-like symptoms. So I guess in the timing, in conjunction with what was going on and the concern of a hantavirus, again, due diligence, I guess, was being taken. But it speaks to the nerves around all of this, despite how much reassurance there is from the people in the know. And we can talk about all of that, if you so, with how it's being handled, how it wasn't handled well, in my estimation, right out of the gate. And there's lots of meat on the sports bone here this morning. OKC Thunder and Canadian Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, they're off to the next round after sweeping the Luka Doncic-less Lakers. One wonders now about LeBron James' future there. He has hinted he could be back for another year, but maybe not even in a Lakers uniform. We shall see. Maybe finish off the career where it all started, back in Cleveland maybe. We could start that rumor if you want, not that it already isn't out there. Cavs and Pistons are knotted at 2 apiece, and the Jays, well, sputtering a bit now to say the least. That's all, though. They'll come around. Tough outing for Kevin Gausman last night, though. The alleged ace, we've relied on. Does a lot of home openers, in the season. And so Gausman, he slipped kind of awkwardly on a ground ball right out of the gate, first inning, and never really looked right after that. Gave up a couple of homers, 5 runs before he left in the 5th, but not before recording his 2,000th strikeout. And you could see legend and future Hall of Famer himself, Max Scherzer, calling for the ball immediately after he recorded said strikeout. And this all comes a day after, Gausman's struggles come a day after Eric Lauer got rocked and was sent down. So despite the struggles, the Jays, they're only 8 games back. That's not bad for May, really, given the potential of that team. They have got lots of potential. This is really like a longer horse race, and the Jays are just pacing themselves in the back of the pack, and I think they're poised to make a move. What do you think? Oh, and the World Hockey Championships, of course, get underway on Friday. Pretty stacked Canadian team, too. I think that speaks to the patriotism of the moment. Lots of people signed up for this one, lots of stars. More to say on that later in the week, of course. And so if you were lucky enough to gas up yesterday, you saved about 5 cents a litre. Everything is up a little bit today. Well, a little bit. It's all relative. Gas is up 5.2. Diesel motor fuel on the island, 4.7. Diesel motor fuel lab by 4.3 cents. Furnace oil, 4.5. About 4 cents a litre. And stove oil, heating fuel, increased 3.57 cents. Right. All right. As I've always said, I'm going to shut up now and let's take a call, because we have callers, and that's the priority on the show. Let's go right to line number 2, and fresh off as a daisy, Tom Davis, City Councillor in St. John's. You're on the air. Morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Now I can, yeah.
Okay. Good morning, Brian.
Morning, Dave.
Didn't expect to get right on. So, listen, a couple of city things I just wanted to bring up. Specifically, we've thanked the residents for signing up for the bulk garbage pickups. I don't know if it's a product of our success of communicating it, but a lot of appointments are filled up. So we're trying to expand capacity. So residents have been asked to sign up for the Curvit app, and there will be some notifications going out about more appointments. I only found out yesterday. A resident called me and said that he tried to book it and he couldn't for the Friday garbage collection. So that's great. And
it is great. I mean, it speaks to people gutting her, cleaning out, getting in the spring mode, to try to clean up the properties and stuff. That's what I would look at it as. But that's great. Uptake is great.
It is really good. That's basically it for the city right now. Just wanted to take off the council hat and have a bit of a discussion and respectful discussion about. I know, Brian, I hear you say it often. You said to me last week about the answer to all our problems is money, and I don't know if that's a fair commentary, so I just wanted to have a discussion with you about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say problems. I say the answer to all your questions. Problems and questions are two different things. So that's what I say. I often say, because I can find precious little that doesn't lead you back to money. But go ahead, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I know there was a happiness study done a little while ago where they followed people who had been injured or ended up as in wheelchairs, and also people who had won lotteries. And they found that after a time period that people spiked, the lottery winners spiked in happiness, and obviously people who had these unfortunate accidents, their happiness went down, but that people came back to kind of a level of happiness. And in some cases, the people who won lotteries actually ended up being less happy and having really tragic outcomes. Mm-hmm. And I know that there's a very high percentage of Canadians who actually, whether it's tongue-in-cheek or not, or they really, really believe it, that their method of retirement is going to be winning a lottery ticket. And, and I guess that's hopeful, but maybe not a good.
It's unrealistic. Beyond hope,
it's
not hopeful. It's just unrealistic. I mean, people who are hedging their bets, literally. I say that in the context of, even as I mentioned yesterday, you could be flush with cash, but you can still have a lot of problems, as we've seen. With famous people over time, you think they have it all, but then you get into the mental illness, and that's a different discussion. But what I meant by the problems, not problems, but the answer to all your questions is that, a lottery doesn't solve your money problems, but in the world of governance and in the world of just trying to get through life these days, everything leads back to expense, everything leads back to cost of living, everything leads back to resources, everything leads back to our financial bottom line, what the government can do for us, what we can do for ourselves. It does. The answer, I just say it's the answer to all our questions, not the problems necessarily. We've got bigger problems than that.
Yeah, and the thing is, when I look at the challenge of that, obviously if you take healthcare, for example. Mm-hmm. Tom? 0.1.
Oh, sorry. Lost you there for a sec. Go ahead.
Okay. You look at healthcare, we have spending $5.1 billion now, which is like $8,000 or $9,000 per Newfoundlander and Labradorian. And it doesn't necessarily feel like spending more money necessarily solves any problems. So, of course, it seems to exacerbate some things. So if you, a retired doctor said to me the other day, we're having this conversation, he said, the problem is people just aren't working. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, a lot of people are casual by choice. There's a lot of doctors who are working 2 or 3 days. And that comes back to money in that for whatever reason, they're obviously earning enough money to be able to afford their lifestyles. So part of the challenge is you think if you pay people more money, they're going to work more. And that works up to a point once you have your needs met and the majority of your wants. And then in a culture where we're looking at not that the reason people go to work anymore is because of the purpose or the contribution they make. It's now about being able to have quality of life and work-life balance and some sort of aspirational pop culture sort of lifestyle. And once you lose that connection, when you make it all about money, when you create healthcare would be a really good example, when you make it all about the market, so pay people as much as you can so that you attract them and you, in theory, have them work more. Well, it seems to be as we pay more, people aren't working as much overtime. I know it also in police services. I've heard it also said that a lot of police officers now are making enough money that they don't want to work overtime anymore, which in a lot of organizations that are 24 hours, 7 days a week, people get sick, different things happen, and you need people to step up to fill the gap. Mm-hmm. When you don't have court systems that function But it's also out in the private sector too. I mean, it's more public, and it's in the media and stuff about the public infrastructure, operations that aren't functioning. But it isn't necessarily. There are some parts of the public that you could argue should be paid more, but once you reach a threshold where people are meeting their needs and majority of their wants, then they start looking for pleasure. Why should they go to work?
And I was just going to say, if you don't mind me saying, pleasure isn't necessarily a vacation. Pleasure can be just a break, because we know, you use the example of doctors. Tell me they don't, the pressure and especially with the whole core care situation right now and the rollout of that and the pushback given, you can just tell they want a slower pace. I mean, you can read between the lines that they're concerned with the pace of it. Then there's the Hippocratic Oath kicks in, and whether or not you're doing your patients justice. And are you being hamstrung or held back because of the new system and the training and the rollout and everything that has to go into that? So, I mean, interrupt, but, you mentioned doctors. It's a perfect example. And they may be making enough money, but that extra money goes to what do they value the most? Do they want a vacation, or they just want a break? Do they just want to detach from the job and have those extra couple of days a week or time a week to just, to clean the slate and relax? For lack of a better term.
Right. And the real challenge ultimately is that society doesn't work if everybody just pursues their own best self-interest. Unfortunately, and it's a conundrum. And I'm not saying I have the solution, but if we focus on marketizing everything so that everything is about how much you pay people, then you lose the fact that ultimately we all come together as a community, as a society, to make things function and to look after each other. And if everybody just looks after their own little world, especially when they're in the public service or in the parts of the private sector that are service-based, everybody would have a really big problem, for example, if they couldn't get health care when they need it. Well, that's what happens. But, it's a real challenge, because if you expect the 40 people in the House Assembly to fix everybody's problems, it's an unreasonable expectation. And if you can't put the responsibility back on all of us individually, say in the case of healthcare, to be healthier, like to try and do our best to have long-term. I mean, a lot of times it's more like, how can you value the future more than the present and make choices that look after the future? When you're sick or when you're down on your luck, well, obviously all you have is the present, and you just are trying to survive and you're trying to move forward from that, and then that's a different story. But for the majority of us who are, trying to look at how do we have a better life for our children or for ourselves, I do believe that you have to be able to put the responsibility, share it around, and somehow have these bigger conversations, because, more money in Newfoundland and Labrador, because we're not valuing the fact that we have to pay back this debt, and because we're really not trying to figure out how we're going to have a sustainable, our economy actually shrunk last year, and so you can't keep spending more money and borrowing from the future, because ultimately that is, that would be like running up as much debt as you possibly can as you move through life, and then expect to be able to retire.
Yeah, and there's and it's just going to say, you mentioned there is a little bit of, every man, woman, and child for himself in society right now, with the cost of living and with all the different pressures that people have. But I agree with you. I mean, the other thing is you have to shore up your own lifestyle, your own life, and your own employment, and get to a stable place before you can contribute well to the rest of society. Say, as a doctor or whatever. I mean, you have to be in a good place mentally, physically, as you just mentioned. If you're sick, you can't really contribute, or you may be a drain on the system, which may or may not be a fault of your own, depending on your individual circumstances. But there seems to be a level of, you do have to put that effort in for your own sake in order to be a productive member and to be able to function at a level that you do produce or contribute to, society and the financial well-being of the province, if you will.
Yeah, and it's important that it's not about blame, obviously, because the last thing you want to do is make anybody feel worse about themselves if for whatever reason they're not feeling well. I mean, being on this show is really good for a lot of people, because not only are they probably helping themselves by working things through and feeling like they're doing something, they're also helping other people who are in the same boat. I mean, some people may find it irritating to hear people call in and, tell their problems. I think it's really important, because I think it shines a light on it. But I think what is not helpful is to not continue to put the responsibility down on the people, or share the responsibility down to the people who are actually doing the work, who decide whether, for example, they call in sick this morning when maybe they should go to work. and because that has an impact. If a whole surgical team is prepping to look after someone who's got a serious illness, and one person who is maybe not sick, or maybe for whatever reason, or has made a bad choice the night before, or been hungover, or whatever else, that level of responsibility, there is a consequence. And I think, like, destigmatizing everything to the point where people don't feel responsible to others can be a challenge. So somewhere we have to find that balance, and I think right now the pendulum has swung too far one way, and I just think having these conversations is important.
Yep.
But the easy thing to do is to not share the responsibility and just blame, in the case of healthcare, the Minister of Health and the Premier, when that obviously is not going to get us anywhere, because we all have to, 540,000 people have to be part of the solution.
Yep, I agree. That's a good point. Some salient points there this morning. And I'll just say, you talk about people calling the show. It's also very comforting for people who are in a tough spot to hear someone that's also, comforting, and not a good thing if another person is in a dire straits or a hard time, but it is comforting to know you're not alone in a lot of these cases, and that's one of the great values of this program. You can hear people you can nod along and say, yeah, I understand, I've been there, I know exactly. That can be a level of comfort as well. Tom, I'm well past break. Look, appreciate the call. Thank you. Don't be a stranger. I know you won't. I think we have Committee of the Whole today, or the regular meeting?
Committee of the Whole.
Thanks,
Brian.
Very good.
Take
Thanks.
care, everyone.
Take care. Bye.
Goodbye.
All right, Tom Davis there, a little past the interruption for the morning. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show for this Tuesday. And a few topics I didn't get to yesterday, and we got a couple of calls just queuing up there in the line. But the whole pharmacare debate, of course, we can talk and we should talk about it. The Health Minister, Lael Evans, of course, has been very emphatic. She said the door, quote, door was closed on this province as... for a while it was referred to as a pilot project, but now, people are pushing back against that yesterday, saying that, no, it wasn't a pilot. It was a pilot for some of the drugs that were going to be covered under the National Pharmacare Program. But again, we know that only a few provinces have managed to get in that door, which Health Minister Lael Evans has said was closed on this province. And again, just to be clear, this is mostly concerning, the program itself would be mostly concerning diabetes sorts of drugs and contraception, which is funny, ironic in some ways if you want to think back to the comments that Roger Grimes made years ago about what Newfoundlanders love to do. And I won't go there unless you remember what I'm talking about, but... fishing and something else. But it's mostly around diabetes and contraception, this program would be. And the federal minister, of course, has given this, it's when a program is ending or the government has decided not to continue such a program, they'll push back against the fact that it's been cut. They'd more to say it's just expiring. The question is, what's happened after it expires? So it's been very vague, the messaging coming out of Ottawa and the federal minister on what's going to happen here and why, whether or not it'll be continued, whether other provinces will be given an opportunity to sign on. But keeping in mind, this isn't, wholesale... holus bolus sort of coverage, for prescription drugs and that sort of thing. It really is specific sort of to the diabetes and contraception. And, So, and speaking of that, shingles vaccine. Update, the update has been that it continues to be very strong uptake on the shingles, the free shingles vaccine. I think it became free just last year. And that's, not part of the pharmacare program, but I just mentioned that in the same vein as it. So if you have any thoughts on that, and there was another, of course, I got an email there asking why we're not talking about Alberta. We can talk about Alberta. We can talk about whether it's the pipeline and the cozy relationship, at least on the surface, cozying relationship between Prime Minister Carney and Premier Smith. And how close that pipeline, we've heard within days that they would have potentially past the deadline, but potentially an MOU to sign regarding a pipeline to the West Coast. And there's so much involved there. We can get into the referendum, of course, and the referendum potential and the voters list scandal, which arguably is destroying the credibility of the Separatist Party or those who prefer to detach from the rest of Canada. So there's this whole scandal there. The question being, do the issues, the leaked voters lists that were distributed, including former Premier Jason Kenney's personal information displayed up on the big screen, the Centurion Project, where we go with that, whether or not you think this is a viable threat to Canada, to whether or not, I mean, there's 2 referendums now potentially coming in Quebec and Alberta. We can always talk about that. Yeah, okay. No, I just saw a note there as well on Carney as soon as I mentioned his name. Yes, jet setting around the world, but also, he nailed that, landed the Airbus contract with AirAsia. That's a massive contract. It shows some of the fruits of the labor. Whether or not you agree with jet setting around the world to be at these non-EU or EU conferences and other get-togethers between countries who are really trying to search inside and outside themselves for ways to offset, the tariff conundrum that's been, heaped upon us by the United States. So there's all kinds of issues to go there if you want to get into whether or not. I mean, it's expensive. I imagine someone is out there as we speak doing a freedom of information request on how much the travel bill will be for Carney and his entourage of late. Let's see. In the meantime, we have reporter right from our newsroom. Zach Power is on the line. So earlier this morning, we got news that there was some kind of protest or possibly a strike outside the RNU offices on Major's Path. Zach Power, are you down there now as we speak, or?
Yeah, I'm standing right across from the building here on Major's Path, not to be confused with that healthcare building that's a little further down. So when people hear Major's Path, they might think, oh, well, they're outside that building. They're actually a little bit further up at the RNU offices right now.
Okay, and how many people are we talking, and why are they there?
Yeah, so right now there's every bit of probably about a good dozen who are standing out here on the lines right now. These are NAPE workers, and it's important to remember this context. So a lot of these people are not necessarily healthcare workers. These would be the people who would be working inside the RNU offices right now. They have their signs up saying that they're on strike right now. They don't want to offer any further comment, and they say that they don't want to bargain or negotiate, rather, in public during this. But yeah, as of right now, there's every bit of a good dozen or so people out here who are holding the line, and of course the parking lot of the RNU now is empty. And so a lot of these employers, what we understand is they say that they just can't reach an agreement with the RNU, who would be the employer in this case. So it's 2 unions who are going back and forth with this. It's, as Brian Medore would probably point out in the newsroom, it's pretty much a rare situation, but it does happen from time to time. And that's a lot of context to remember when we see a strike like this.
Yeah. So have they had, so they're not really, bottom line is, I mean, obviously we'd love to know exactly the intricacies, but they're not talking specifically to media about it, or what's the deal?
Not at this time. No, well, at least on the picket line, they're not up for speaking to the media right now, so that could change. We could obviously hear from NAPE President Jerry Earle or some other representative from NAPE in the near future, I'm sure, but as of right now, it's not something that they really want to disclose about what they are striking for in public. A lot of the signs say that they just want a fair deal, that they're on strike, but nothing says, oh, hey, we need more money, or we need more of this, we need more of that. So it's a little bit of an atypical strike, if you were. It's a little bit different from what I've seen, at least. And but yeah, these are the support workers at the RNU. Yeah,
so the devil will be in the details. So bottom line, it doesn't really impact you and me right at this moment. I mean, as you said, just to be clear, it's Major's Path, but this isn't a health hub or anything like that.
Exactly, and these people who are those people who support the nurses, and not necessarily some of the nurses inside the system, especially, and as you mentioned too, when you hear Major's Path, you think, oh, that healthcare facility down at the end. It's actually the other end, closer to the airport.
Right. Zach Power from the newsroom, thanks for this. I know that we've reached out. We're trying to get hold of some NAPE officials, maybe even Jerry Earle. I believe he may be out of province, but we're trying to get a hold of him. You could be anywhere in this world and still have a cell phone, so we'll try to get some more. The devil will be in the details. Thanks for this.
Thanks, Brian.
Great. It's Zach Power from the newsroom. All right, a little bit past short break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the program. I wanted to just quickly mention there's still getting a slew of emails regarding yesterday's discussion about the opposition and the role of said opposition. And, you know, it's certainly one-sided to say the least, but I'm just going to share a couple of more because people have asked me if I received their emails, and of course I did. And really, there's not a lot of time during the program to really delve into it and get into it while I have callers waiting or other topics that we want to delve into. But let's see, a couple of other emails from yesterday's. Good morning, Brian. Welcome to VOCM. Thank you very much. Been here for a few years, but this is the new gig. As for Fred Hutton and Jim Dinn calling your show, there should be more Freds and Jims calling and making the PC government more accountable. This government is not open and transparent. I think they adopted Danny's bill, referring to Danny Williams, of course, C-29. Thus far, this government has done nothing for this province or its people. It's a pretty broad stroke. Lots of talk, numbers, but zero actions. The old saying, quote, a government is only as good as its opposition. My advice to Fred and Jim and others, keep calling the show. Let us know what the real issues are and what the government is not doing. And one other that, offset. Let's see, Monday's show, you had a listener complaining and whining about the Liberals because the Liberals were complaining and whining on Open Line about the PCs. Yeah, so it goes. Can you remind this listener that the PCs were doing the exact same thing, which I did yesterday, by the way, when they were in opposition? That's the opposition's job, to criticize and get answers. I don't think the listener understands what VOCM stands for. Voice of the common man, or common everyone, common person. Absolutely loud and clear. And one other study that I just noticed this morning, and this was timely for me because I was just discussing it. We were discussing it in the household. But a study has come out, and it's one of these studies that really. There's a lot of studies out there. You just go, duh. It's a duh study. We've known for years that in general. Boys tend to mature later than women, or boys tend to mature later than girls, go down this road. But in any event, there's a report out there now that certainly suggests that, there's the annual high school dropout rate for boys much higher than it is for girls, something like 27 to 20%. And this is a study out of Quebec, but it harkens back to, before this even came to the fore, there was a story I noticed in the New York Times a couple of months ago now, I think. Or it just feels like that, or I may have even seen it before that. But just talking about girls outperforming boys in American schools for decades, from elementary school right through college. But, of course, we know that the gender gap starts even earlier than that. I mean, boys enter kindergarten. One of the studies says, less prepared than girls. And the early deficit can, lead to and help explain a lot of the struggles that boys and younger men go through. Now, we know there are many, 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 many other issues that play into this, and that is, the demographics, where you're growing up, who you are, what kind of family life you've had, and all the rest of it. But overall, I've always said it, and I'll admit it out loud that, boys just mature later than girls, and they don't have that extra sort of, shall we say, instinct, to whether it is to study more or less distraction and all those sorts of things. Again, not a child psychologist, but the few reports that I've read, and I mean, this is a kind of a commonplace opinion, certainly when it comes to this sort of topic. And we can get into it. I'm not going to belabor you with all the deets and nuts, but I know people have opinions on this, and others who are going through it, are living it for real themselves. And also, as I mentioned before, I'm going to beat the artificial intelligence drum till the cows come home. I was flicking through the other day and saw the old War Games movie. Now, I don't know how many are of the same vintage, but the Matthew Broderick War Games movie back in the early 80s, and the Whopper. I don't know if you remember that. It was a large computer that basically, was... Broderick in the movie is thinking he's just playing a war game. It turns out he had actually tapped into the U.S. Pentagon's new big computer that could basically destroy the world if it was directed to do so. But it took on a life of its own, and lo and behold, that was the threat. Dave, do you want me to go to callers, or will I take call, or will we take the break first? Yeah, okay. Let's take a short break here, and then we're going to come back with Holly Tobin, the Manager of Emergency Planning and Business Continuity at Memorial University. That'll be a good chat. There's a couple of other callers just coming into the line there now, and we'll get to all of them right after this break. And welcome back to the show for this Tuesday. Let's go, as promised, right to line number 2. And Holly Tobin, you're on the air.
Hi there. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks for being available. So you're the Manager of Emergency Planning and Business Continuity at Memorial University, correct?
Yes, that's me.
How do you ascend to a position like that?
16 years of being here and helping the university through a lot of different emergencies. That's how I came here.
Wow. Yeah, and when we talk about emergencies at MUN, they can be varied in many. I mean, look, for all the knocks that MUN has been taking regarding financial situations, the good work continues, such as this Emergency Preparedness Expo and Disaster Chef Challenge. I didn't see the word chef coming, I got to be honest. I could see what this was going to be, but we'll get into that. But just tell us what's going on tomorrow at MUN.
Yeah, so we're hosting our Emergency Preparedness Expo. It really combines 3 kind of events or parts of the expo. We have interior booth displays highlighting a lot of our emergency response partners and departments here at the university that play a role in that. We have a touch-a-truck lot, so a lot of our partners are bringing in their emergency response vehicles, everything from police cars, Newfoundland Power Line truck, tactical response vehicles, search and rescue vehicles. They're all setting up to give individuals a chance to kind of check those out and learn more about what they all do. And then we also have our Disaster Chef Challenge, where we have challenged members of the university community to create recipes using only non-perishable food items and a camp stove to prepare it. So it really aligns well with our emergency preparedness messaging and the emergency kit for your 72 hours for different families and households and whatnot. So it really ties it all together and promotes that emergency preparedness, safety and security here on campus and at people's homes.
Yeah, what's the genesis of this? Like, what was the discussion? Was this just I believe it's the first of its kind that I've seen occur at MUN, and it's through protective services at MUN, and another division of the university that I wasn't aware of even existed. I mean, I went to MUN, I've lived here my entire life. I've just never seen protective services. And how did they take the role for this?
Yeah, so Protective Services is somewhat new to Memorial. We, as a department, have existed for a couple of years now. It really encompassed emergency management and campus enforcement and patrol. So emergency management as a unit has been around for about 15, 16 years, and campus enforcement and patrol most people are quite familiar with. They've been around for quite a long time. So Protective Services encompasses those 2 units. In regards to the event, most people might have known, they might have heard last week, it was Emergency Preparedness Week. So that's a nationally recognized week that happens every year. And the theme for this year was Be Prepared and Know Your Risks. And this week, May 10th to the 16th, is actually National Police Week. And this is also the start of our spring semester here on campus. So to honor both Emergency Preparedness Week and National Police Week, we decided to host the Emergency Preparedness Expo to promote that emergency preparedness, security, and safety on campus, but also to help showcase those organizations that guide, protect, and keep our community safe, especially in those times of crisis and disaster.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the list of things here. So this is just from 11 to 2 p.m. tomorrow, though. Is that correct? And it's at the Bruno Center?
That's correct. We're starting at 11 a.m. and we'll be shutting down at 2 p.m., so we're running for 3 hours. The touch-a-truck lot and the booths in the Bruno Center atrium are open between 11 and 2, and the Disaster Chef competition is taking place between 12 and 1.
Okay. Seems like it could be lots here to fill out a whole day or even a weekend, when people are off. Just I'm thinking kids and families and that sort of thing, especially the touch-a-truck sort of stuff. Do you have any school groups, or was any of that organized? Like, are there groups coming to sort of get a first-hand taste of this? No pun intended.
Yeah, we've actually invited a lot of our community partners.
Okay.
So we do have a child care center here on campus, so they're going to be visiting with their children. We also invited the high schools that are near campus, as many of our community partners are actually bringing recruitment booths as well. So it's a nice opportunity there if anyone's looking for a career in first response or law enforcement. And we also invited our partners at Academy Canada and College of the North Atlantic. Both of those schools offer programs in paramedicine, security, and related fields. So we felt there was a nice crossover there to invite them as well.
When did this sort of planning start? I'm just wondering, the timing is really interesting. As you said, it just it connects with everything else that's happening right now in the world of disaster. I mean, even after in the wake of the Auditor General's report that showed a lot of communities in the province just aren't prepared, despite what we've been through either last year with the wildfires or, God forbid, 6 years ago. I won't mention any more about that, but I mean, it just seems an interesting sort of role or an interesting event for MUN to latch onto, and put its best foot forward into this realm. It just seems like a great idea. I'm just wondering, at what point did the brains come together and you knock your heads and go, okay, this is a great idea?
Well, it's not our first time doing it, actually. We have had an emergency preparedness expo before to a similar scale, but I believe it was in 2015. But since then, we have had smaller events. We did host our Disaster Chef competition last year as well, and we knew this year we were definitely doing Disaster Chef again, but we decided to expand on it and have the bigger expo again as well. We started planning in earnest about a couple of months ago, so we reached out to all of our partners around late March to really say, do you want to sign up? Do you want to participate? And the response from all the agencies has been so amazing, so much excitement. Everyone's on board. Everyone is coming out tomorrow with putting on the best. It's really going to be a great event, and we're looking forward to a good turnout. Are
there any celebrity chefs, or is this just random people or MUN staff, or who's going to be cooking up the goods with very little?
We've got a mix of our faculty, staff, and students. We've got folks from our Center for Institutional Analysis and Planning. We have another competitor from the Faculty of Medicine and another from the Faculty of Science. So they are all members of the MUN community. In regards to judges, we do have a judge from the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary. We have another one from St. John's Regional Fire Department. And our third judge is from within the university. But we do have the head chef from Aramark, which is our food service provider here on campus. So Chef Derek is going to be on site to help our competitors as well.
That's fantastic. It's a shame it's only 3 hours. It's going to be fitting a lot into just 3 hours, hey?
It is, but, with the resources that we have, we felt it was a good timing, and hopefully we'll see a good turnout in that time. And from what I hear, the weather's supposed to clear up just around 11 or 12 tomorrow, so it should work out perfectly. Yeah,
because there's quite a bit of this is outdoors, too. I see that you have the truck, let me see, the Newfoundland Power Truck, and other vehicles outside and all that, so it won't be hard to miss, that's for sure.
Oh, no, definitely not hard to miss. The mounted unit's going to be there. The horses will be there. The canine units from the RNC, the RCMP, St. John Ambulance are bringing their therapy dogs. Salvation Army are serving up hot dogs from their disaster response unit. We've got popcorn or free popcorn within the booths as well. So there's lots of nice attractions to really bring people together and draw them in.
Oh, popcorn, I'm there. Holly Tobin, thank you so much. As you're a manager of emergency planning and business continuity. Good luck with this tomorrow. Break legs, I guess, if you can say that. It's an event, of course. And by all means, give us a shout when all is said and done, whether it's the next day or when you get a chance. And just give us an idea how it all went and any funny anecdotal experiences you want to share as well, just of the events. And, of course, I'm sure we'll probably see some social media and some photos and all of that flying around as well.
No doubt. Thank you so much for having me today.
And thanks for making yourself available. Take care. Good luck tomorrow.
You too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. All right, and not to be outdone, of course, I should have mentioned this. Somebody sent me this just yesterday, and I didn't get a chance. This is Municipal Awareness Week. So, all ties in. There's Municipal Awareness Week. It's National Police Week. We have the events at MUN, and, you can't shine enough light or we can't be prepared enough for an emergency, of course. But, Municipal Awareness Week, that's May 10th to the 16th, week to celebrate the work of municipal leaders, administrators, staff, highlighting the positive impacts of municipalities, of course. Not that there's a lot that they don't have on their plate. And we spoke to Amy Cody last week, of course, with MNL, speaking to... Dave, do you want me to take that, or we go up to the news? Okay, right on. Great. I'll tee that up as well. Yeah, I'll mention that. But I just wanted to finish talking to Amy Cody last week, of course, about the municipal funding and municipal grants and the sort of the change that the provincial government is looking at, going from a 3 to 4 year model, which of course is leaving some municipalities out in the cold for maybe a year. Now, of course, the provincial government has said some have, I won't say use the word hoarding, but they've certainly built up some money over the years that wasn't used. And so that's going to be recalculated. And there are certainly a few municipalities out there, of which I have heard from, who are not all that happy with that, the work that they put into building up for lack of a better term, a nest egg, if you will, or a bit of an emergency fund, or, funding in years that things are leaner and unexpected events occur, i.e. CBN last year with the fires. But, there's a lot on that. But this is Municipal Awareness Week. And, there's where was the last part of that? Right. Sorry, Dave, I'm just looking for that last line. Yeah, they're talking about the 75-year history, the collaborative approach, and on and on and on it goes. So, look, I am, again, open to that conversation on the grants. I had a couple of emails. I was just trying to find that one that went right to the point about the lack of, awareness or information or communication on the changes to the municipal funding. And, again, it was in the budget, this change in municipal funding and grants, but I believe I've heard Minister Pettin say since then that he's open to suggestion and there may be flexibility. So the door doesn't appear to be closed, but Municipal Awareness Week, that's a good one to be aware of. And again, I'm completely open to that. And you got your tickets to Churchill Park yet? Somebody asked me yesterday, is this just going to be a whole country bumpkin event affair? I doubt it. There's usually a great variety for the Churchill Park Music Festival, but the Chicks and Keith Urban, that'll keep them going, that's for sure. I don't know if you're a big fan or not. Some people may be waiting for their taste. I'm not sure. But, if you have any comment on the acts that are at Churchill Square or even the event itself, become uber popular over the past years, and they've worked well with the community over there in Churchill Park to make sure that things run smoothly. There's always been a growing pains with these things, but they've been working them out over the year. They changed the venue where the stage was, and then they moved it back. So, lots to be talked about there. I'm sure there'll be more announcements in the offing in the not-too-distant future. Okay, let's off to the news, and we'll be right back with the Mayor of Red Bay, Eric Paul. We're going to talk about small ports, small crafts, and wharfs right after the news. And welcome back to the show. Let's, without further ado, right to line number one, and the Mayor of Red Bay, Labrador, Eric Paul, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
How are you this morning?
I'm doing pretty good, despite the dreary kind of morning we have here. How's it looking up in Red Bay?
Dreary as well, unfortunately. Spring is slowly creeping our way, but we still have some snow left around, and well, it's not uncommon for here, but it's time for it to be gone.
No, absolutely. It feels like one step forward, two steps back a little bit so far.
Oh, most definitely. It was a brutal winter. It started in November, and it's still sort of hanging on there.
Yeah, hanging on the west coast of the island, too. Looks like they're going to get 5 or 15, maybe even 20 centimeters over the next 24 hours. So, yeah, I'll stay.
Well, I don't think we're getting that, but
no, I'll stay here and you can stay there. We won't go to the West Coast for now. We'll give it a break. Mayor Paul, this story regarding the wharf in Red Bay, and of course the pending, the return, the replica of the 16th century Basque whaling ship next year, the events and all the history, big events planned for your community next year. It just seems very odd that there just seems to be, I don't know if it's a hesitation or an uncertainty or an unclearness about, the plans for the wharf there, which will be the center of attention when the replica of the San Juan comes in next year. Where are we right now with this? I've seen some stories here and there just about, and some reports. Certainly, I heard the Minister Pettin say, in no uncertain terms, that it didn't look like the government, the current PC government, was going to ante up to follow through on commitments made by the previous Liberal government. Where are we now?
Pretty much in limbo. Things have not changed a lot. We are exploring other venues or avenues, I guess, for funding, but it's a process. But for your listeners out there that aren't aware of it, I mean, we have, it used to be a fish plant, and we've spent, or the governments, I guess, have spent in the area of $1.5 million to take that fish plant and turn it into a visitor reception area, I guess, along with a right whale exhibit. The whale bones there have been recovered from the bottom of the harbor when Parks Canada was doing their underwater archaeology back in the 70s and 80s. So that's been made into a world-class whale exhibit. Now, to further, I guess, sort of explain what's going on there, one end of that building and half the front is surrounded by a wharf, which has been rehabilitated, I guess, or brought up to modern specs or whatever. And the other half of the front and the other end is surrounded by a dilapidated wharf, which has been there, I don't know, 50 plus years. And it's first of all an eyesore. So you've got half the building surrounded by a pristine facility, wharf, and you got the other half with a dilapidated wharf, which is a safety concern and so on. And Red Bay is a World Heritage Site, UNESCO World Heritage Site, and so on. We get thousands of visitors a year. And, and as you said, we are expecting the replica of the San Juan, which was a Spanish galleon that sunk in Red Bay Harbor in 1565 or thereabouts. And it was lying on the bottom and basically just whole split in two, 90% intact, and Parks Canada took that off the bottom and measured it, photographed it, and did everything with it, and then reburied it on the bottom. And from that information, we're getting a replica of that ship, which is going to come to North America. It will come to Red Bay, and it's going to be here for, we're not sure how long, for several days or more, and or maybe 2 or 3, 4 weeks. So we are anticipating a lot of visitors. And in order to make that visitor experience, I guess, more enjoyable and safer, and to be able to accommodate more people, we really need something done with the other half of the wharf. Now, like I said, there was some information going back and forth. When John Abbott was Minister of Transportation, he was in Red Bay, and he committed then to doing repairing the wharf. Now, I know that was a while back, and the Liberal government was in the process of trying to do something with it. They had 2 or 3 studies done to determine exactly what needed to be done. And unfortunately for us, in this case, the Liberal government ran out of time, and the Conservatives came in. And I guess, like all things, the Conservative agenda it was not the same as the Liberal agenda, and they have their reasons for or priorities for spending, and I guess we're just not part of that priority. However, it does present a danger right now, and if the wharf is not completed, it also protects the building that we have there, or half of the building anyway. And so if that wharf were to disappear in storms or whatever, as we know are more frequent nowadays, then there's nothing protecting a building that we've invested well over $1 million in. So that's sort of where we sit. Now, finding the funding, that's become, I guess, the issue.
Yeah, that was the last that I heard from Mr. Patton. He just said it would require significant investment. Do we have an estimate on what it would take to at least just get it to a point where it would be sufficient? If that's, I mean, we want more than sufficient. This is a massive event last year. I remember when the Gaia, I was there in St. Anthony at L'Anse Meadows for the Gaia return, sort of the same thing, recreating the voyage of the Vikings to L'Anse Meadows, and that was back in the late 90s or mid-90s, I think it was. And, massive event. The federal, provincial governments, hand over fist, they made that, the Prince I think it was Prince Andrew was there at the time. I don't think it was Prince Charles. I think it was Prince Andrew. I'm trying to remember. But there was royalty there as well, and, it was a big do. So I'm just wondering what it would take when we're talking significant investment. What would it take to be to a satisfactory level for you?
Well, I only know what the last report said, and that report didn't address replacing it. What that report said was that the wharf needed to be, it couldn't be rehabilitated, is what they were saying, because some of the underpinnings were to the point where, it wasn't simply a matter of putting a few piers or piles out on the corner, which is really drooping, and decking it over again. There was work to be done in under. So they estimated close to $1 million to dismantle what was there.
Just to dismantle it. Okay.
Yeah, just to dismantle what was there, and nothing with regards to putting anything back there. Now, if you just took it out of it, then that removes that. So we'll say that's $1 million. So if you just took it out of it, then the protection for our waterfront building there is gone. So obviously you need to do something else. Now, whether or not you need to put back a structure the same size as what was there, because when that wharf was put there, that was put there way back when the CN coastal boats, as we used to call them, or CN Marine coastal boats were coming and tying up in Red Bay. So that wharf was designed for that. So whether or not you need to build a structure as large as that, I don't know. But, so all I know, what the minister just threw out the number like $4 or $5 million. And he may be right. I don't know. But obviously, if it takes $1 million to dismantle it, to put it back there, I guess we can add at least another $1 million or more. But, obviously I don't have the wherewithal to come up with that. And we haven't talked to anyone to see exactly how much it would cost. But we are working with our provincial MHA, Lisa Dempster, and she's still, I guess, fighting on our behalf. And our federal MP has been very helpful there as well. So we're just looking. And all I can say is that obviously with a world-class event which is going to occur, and the provincial government is in on this as well, and the federal government, they've been dealing with our counterparts in Spain. So it's not like it's unknown. There's no mystery to this as such, and it is a major event. So with collaboration between Spain and Newfoundland, Labrador, and Canada, obviously it is a major event. Yeah. So hopefully funding will come from somebody, because it's going to look very embarrassing to somebody when all these people show up and this wharf is just, like it is.
Do you ever fear that the UNESCO designation could be, even in risk or jeopardy here, given if the sort of the organization that oversees these sites doesn't keep the upkeep? I mean, I know there were talk that's happened in the past with other sites, but is that a fear? And also, Leila Evans, the Labrador Affairs Minister, of course, she has said that, they're working with the Department of Tourism and to ensure that when it arrives, it will be a success, quote unquote. I don't know what that means. Do you?
No, I would like to talk to Minister Evans herself to find out what that means. With regards to the world designation, I think this is too big, far too big for that to be endangered. The significance of this, this site is way beyond, I think, to the point where someone's going to remove our designation. Yeah. This is just one little piece of the puzzle. Like most you can come in, you can visit Red Bay, you can go through the Parks Canada exhibits and all of that without actually ever seeing I suppose without looking at the dock close up. But now the new whale exhibit that we have put there is encouraging a lot of tourists to come there, and we're talking about thousands of tourists in a single year. But getting back to Minister Evans, yes, I know the provincial government wants this to be a success. There's no doubt about that. The trouble, I think, this came right when the government was changing, and when one side puts forth a case in public. And brings it to public attention, then it's normal, I think, for the other side to react. And I think if Minister Petton and Minister Evans were to come and have a look at this, I think everybody would see the need, and perhaps in that case we might be able to get together and try to find a solution. As of right now, I guess it's too early in the story for us to be able to say definitively that we can go here, we can go there. We've been told that there may be sources of funding, but it may take cooperation between both provincial and federal. So, we're working at that, and obviously, as we all know, the wheels of government and bureaucracy turn slowly. However, in this case, if something is not started soon, then getting this ready for the arrival to San Juan is going to be a bit problematic, I would think.
Yeah, and the wheels turn slowly, and sometimes they go in reverse. When a government changes hands, and we know that a staple of this government is efficiency. I mean, they're looking at everything as a government with $1 billion deficit and $20 billion debt would. So they're looking literally the line items and I guess the priorities of what we need right now with the government facing what they're facing. So I guess that's the fallback. And I've kept you for much longer than I said I would, but I'm just fascinated by this because we put so much emphasis on tourism, and this isn't just another site to visit. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. They're few and far between globally, and we have one right in our backyard in Labrador, and a massive event next year. So let's hope cooler heads, smarter heads get together and just find a way so that it's not a last minute thing and the proper work is done here. It's not a rush job.
That's right. And just to reiterate, I guess, and to add to your point there, I mean, we get 2 or 3 tour buses a day in the summer, every day. Mm-hmm. And we get thousands of visitors. I mean, this is not just a calling card for Red Bay. I mean, this brings people up. Yeah. This is one of the reasons why people come up the Northern Peninsula. This is along with Lanza Meadows, but this is part of that. And people come across not only to visit Red Bay, but it brings tourists into our area. And this year we're starting to get tour buses that are actually coming in for the first time and passing on going through the Lab City and out to Bay Como. So, this and Red Bay again is a major drawing card there. So this is just not one little one-of. This is a major tourist attraction.
Can you say fixed link?
I would love to say fixed link, and that's another topic. What a lot of people don't realize, and if you've got time, I'll just put it out there. If you from Deer Lake to St. Barbara, the ferry comes across. It's about 3 hours. From Deer Lake to Corner Brook, from Deer Lake to Port aux Basques, give or take, it's about 3 hours. If you come across the Blanc-Sablon, if the road was completed, Road 138, from Blanc-Sablon up to Quebec Lower North Shore to Seven Islands, I'm not talking about coming to Blanc-Sablon and going through the Goose Bay and out the other way. Sure. But if you go up the Lower North Shore, in about 3-4 hours, you could be in Seven Islands. So if you want traffic to
otherwise known as Sept-Îles, sorry.
Sept-Îles, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just for some people who, yeah.
Okay, yes. Fair enough. if you look at 3 hours to Port aux Basques, the wait time, the crossing time, then you're in Nova Scotia and all the way if you want to go to Sept-Îles or Quebec, wherever. If you come 3 hours up, hour, let's say, give it an hour in a fixed link, but that would be whatever. But then another 4 or 5 hours, and you're in Sept-Îles. Like the time distance, people don't realize how quickly you could move to other areas of Canada. And when they think about driving up Northern Peninsula across the straits, oh, what foolishness sort of thing, right? But it's the mindset. People don't realize the geography and the time that you would be cutting off by doing that. But anyway, that's my little spiel on that one.
And all my fault because I had to throw in the fixed link. I thought you might find, I knew you'd probably we let this conversation go without not at least mentioning it. Mayor Paul, look, I appreciate the time. That's another one we can dig into any time. I'm right here. So you know where to find me and we know where to find you.
Okay.
So good luck with the work on this wharf. Keep us updated on anything you hear at all.
I will indeed, and thank you very much for having me. It's good to be able to get our views out there, I guess, or our concerns, whatever. Thank you.
Absolutely, it needs to be heard, and we know they are listening.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Yeah. All right, Dave, well past and a little bit late on my end, but let's take a break, come right back. And Joe's even going to talk about the St. Barbe Blanc Blanc ferry crossing facility after the break. And welcome back to the show. Let's go right to line number 2. And Trevor, you're on the air. I should just let you know, Trevor, I'm close to a break again because we had a important and longer conversation with the mayor of Red Bay, but I may ask you to wait a minute halfway into this and just and hang on for a second, come back if that's okay.
Oh, that's fine, Brian.
Yeah. So you are a participant with tomorrow's Emergency Preparedness Expo, following up on the conversation I had with Holly Tobin just a little while ago, and specifically with regard to 211.
That's right. Yes, I'm the provincial coordinator for 211, and I'm going to be participating in the Emergency Preparedness Expo tomorrow at the Bruneau Centre. And I just wanted to remind people about the 211 service that, fire season is upon us, and camping and outdoor activities are going to be increasing over the next few months. And if people find themselves in sort of a dangerous situation, and if they feel like there might be an emergency situation, sometimes they're not sure who to call. Sometimes people are reluctant to call 911 because they think they're not sure if it's appropriate for 911. But in those situations, people can always dial 211. 211 is the province's helpline, essentially, and we have service navigators available 24 hours a day. And most of them are trained social workers, and so they can refer people to the most appropriate service if they're not sure who they should be reaching out to.
Yeah, everything from, social, the health, government support programs, everything. People, I feel like we're in competition with you sometimes here, Trevor, because we like to be the alternate 211. People just looking for information. And how often do we direct?
Absolutely. And
we direct them right your way a lot of times. Do you find that people there's enough of an awareness about 211? I mean, you're competing with 811, of course, on the health side, and then 911, of course. So it's like almost the forgotten sibling.
Well, there are a lot of, what we call N11 services out there. Of course, those 411 and 311 in the city of St. John's. But 211 is sort of a catch-all for help in the province. So, again, if people are not sure where to call in any situation, 24 hours a day, we have service navigators available. We can serve people in over 240 different languages. And the service is, it could use more utilization now. I think a lot of people are not necessarily aware of the 211 service or the types of services that it provides. But, these days, oftentimes we're helping people find food. So 40% of our callers are looking for food banks and Meals on Wheels programs. But we also help people find emergency shelter or long-term housing if possible. But we can help people find employment resources or recreational services even.
Yeah, and I find calls like this will generate calls for you. It is a bit of an afterthought for some people. They're not quite sure. I'm not quite sure why that is. It's been around since 2020, I think. And
that's right.
It's, as you said, right, especially this day and age, cost of living and that sort of thing. What kind of role will you play tomorrow? Will it just be an information booth, or are you cooking? Are you going to be a chef?
No, I won't be cooking, but I'll just be there sharing information and sharing some, materials with people, talking to them about the 211 service and just trying to raise some general awareness.
Yep, great. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, that's it. Just people can dial 211 24 hours a day, or they can check our database at nl.211.ca. And we also have a chat function on there, which is a live navigator. It's not an AI bot. So if people are more comfortable like chatting over the internet as opposed to making a phone call, they can reach out to us that way too.
Yeah, everything from food banks, meals, programs, everything, and French and English, both and bilingual services, correct?
Oh, yes. Well, actually, we serve people in over 240 different languages.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. 240. Well, that covers it. I'm sure.
It does, yeah. We've never turned anybody away, apparently, due to language difference.
Great. Well, if you ever do, let me know, because that would be a story if you got 240 in the bank. Trevor, thanks. I really appreciate it. Good luck tomorrow. And as I mentioned to Holly, you know, if you want to report back and let us know what the kind of experience was there at the MUN Expo Preparedness Emergency Expo tomorrow, be all over it. Thanks a lot.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on, Brian.
Okay, take care. Good luck. Okay, bye. All right. Okay, short break, and then back with Joe and Amanda Callum over the mining topic. Let's get into that after the break. Welcome back to the program, right to line number 3. And Joe, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Congratulations on your new position. I listen to VOCM Open Line as much as I possibly can, and you're doing a great job.
I appreciate it. It's the callers that are doing it. You know, the information that in real time that can be disseminated on this program is invaluable, and it's the show. Hosts will come and go, but the show has a life of its own and a really necessary, you know, an essential life. So appreciate it. Thanks. Appreciate the kind words.
Yes, the reason for my call, I just recently had the pleasure of driving the Trans-Labrador Highway.
I don't often hear that. I don't often hear it in that term, Joe. the pleasure of driving the Trans-Labrador, but it is a pleasure these days, is it?
It is. The pavement, the new roads from Labrador City all the way to the border in Lansinclair, probably the best in Atlantic Canada right now. But the concern that I have, as I was waiting to cross the ferry from Blanc-Sablon to St. Barbe on the Kayak W, there used to be a large structure there where passengers could go check in. I know the online system is in place now, but there was another reason for the structure. There was a small restaurant. There were washrooms there. You know, people could go in and relax while they're waiting for their crossing. Sometimes you could be sitting in that lineup because you have to be there an hour before departure, and sometimes there's delays. So you could be sitting in the parking lot for several hours, only to discover that that building was torn down last year at some point due to structural issues. And nothing has replaced it, and there doesn't seem to be anything temporary or any plans. So last year there was 103,000 people, according to the stats, that crossed that strait on that ferry. And I can assure you, of 103,000 people, there were days that people were sitting in that parking lot for hours due to wind and icebergs and ice and so on. And the mayor of Red Bay just articulated it so well why tourism is so important to that portion of the province with the celebrations that are upcoming, and 103,000 people going through that small area and on the way to Lab City and, you know, all across Labrador now because we're wide open with the road system now. It just concerns me that there are no plans to have a facility there where someone can get out of their vehicle, use the water. There's a couple of porta potties on the dock, but I mean, you have people there with special needs, handicap, small children, and I'm just wondering if there's some way that someone could reach out to maybe, you know, the MHA, Lisa Dempster, or Minister Barber, and ask the question, because it's quite concerning to see absolutely nothing in such a vital area, just a couple of porta potties for washroom facilities, or, you know, something along those lines. It's not a proper washroom facility, place to go have a snack. It's strange that such a high traffic area and there's nothing there, just an empty parking lot.
And as you articulated, the waits can be long and unpredictable. I saw something, I don't know where I saw it, to be honest, Joe. I saw something regarding construction at the ferry terminal in Blanc-Sablon, like earlier this year. Did I dream that, or like? And full disclosure, I've never taken that ferry. Been up the Northern Peninsula a number of times, up to Lance Meadows, St. Anthony, and down back again. But I've never crossed over to Labrador on the ferry. I've been to Labrador, but I just haven't gone across on the ferry. Was there some kind of construction there, or there is a terminal per se, obviously, for the ferry to dock and that sort of thing, but does that not have any kind of services within?
No. I don't know. There might be some construction on the dock itself. I'm not familiar with that. When I looked, because I've crossed that ferry many times, and I've always went in and had a cup of coffee or just, get out of the vehicle even for a few minutes or an hour or two. And noticed that the parking lot was empty. So I asked some questions about, to passengers who frequent that crossing, and I asked, are there any plans, and no one seemed to know at that particular time. I'm not saying that there's information out there, but I've done a little bit of digging, and I haven't found anything out. But with the tourism season quickly approaching, and nothing there, that part of Labrador highly depends on tourism. It's basically a very small fishery now, and the tourism economy is very important to that area, and we have people coming there. We just don't want to leave a sour taste in their mouth, Oh,
absolutely, I do know. And as you said, the mayor of Red Bay he did articulate, the importance of it, especially in the next year for Red Bay, but just in general for tourism, across the board. And we don't have enough problems with ferries and ferry terminals in this province, that's for sure. But how often do you transverse?
At least several times a year. Not as much as I want, because I really enjoy the drive and I enjoy crossing on that ferry. Now, with that being said, on the St. Barb side, the road is a bit bumpy. The first 50, 60 kilometers is almost, as bumpy as the ferry ride some days. But there's some issues there with that as well. But I won't get into that today.
Right.
So maybe if you could,
it's out there.
You have a broad audience and a lot of listeners, just to see if there are any plans for that. If there are, great. If they're not, there should be some in place.
Yeah, because traffic's only going to get higher, and there's going to be more people backing up. And look, as you just articulated, if the basics aren't there, whether it's porta potties or washroom services or somewhere to grab a snack, maybe not so much in the summer months, I don't know, but certainly the winter months, trying to either get to Labrador or back. And with the ice situations, which has changed, of course, in recent years. But, Joe, listen, it's out there now. Curious to see, and I'm sure other people are thinking the same thing that have been through that experience. So we'll put it out there and see if we can get some feedback on it and whether or not some changes can be made, some additions, anything to make that crossing a little bit more pleasant, for lack of a better term.
Just one more point, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
In 2024, there was 90,000 passengers passing through that area. In 2025, it was 103,000. So the number seems to be on an upward swing. So, let's get some proper facilities in there and make people happy and comfortable during their travels. Yeah,
if nothing else, the numbers justify it. And we have put in some calls today on other related topics to Minister Barber, towards the Minister, but we're told she's unavailable today, but I'm sure we'll catch up with her this week. Joe, it's out there. I appreciate the call.
Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
Thanks. You too. Thank you. Okay, Dave, let's take a short pause here and back with Amanda McCollum, the Executive Director of Mining Industry NL, right after the break. And welcome back to the show. Yes, let's go right to line number one. And Amanda McCollum, the Mining Industry NL Executive Director, you're on the air.
Hi, good morning, Brian.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity, and congrats on your new role.
Thank you very much. It's topics like this that, I've been covering as a journalist for years and years, but diving into, the more intricacies of it, and of course now the future, and it seems bright for mining, but I just wonder, there's so much potential right now, but there seems to be almost I won't say a holding pattern, but just like you're at the start gate and you're just waiting for the gun to go off, it feels like. I mean, there are more than enough, and I can list them from Hammerdown to Hopebrook to Buckens and, the rare earth minerals and the critical minerals and Voisey's and Inco. I just wonder how you get your head all around this, and what's the positivity level versus the, say, I won't say negativity, but what's the optimism these days in the light of, oh my God, world events, I guess I'll say.
No, fair comments and questions there. So first of all, I'm going to open by just saying this is actually National Mining Week. So it was a week proclaimed in 1995 by the federal government to really highlight the importance of mining to Canada and, to our citizens' economy and well-being. And I think that the mining sector, the mineral resources sector in the province is certainly one that has been building much momentum and much transformation over the last several years. Just really maybe not getting a lot of mainstream media attention. So when you look at, I'm incredibly optimistic about the current status of our sector as well as the future. We're the second largest contributor to nominal GDP in the province at like 9%, only second to oil extraction. So those two sectors alone are about, account for about 0.25% of the province's GDP. So these are the money makers in the province. In terms of employment, and we're seeing, about 8,800 people employed directly in the sector for last year in 2025. So the industry is a significant employer of people in the province in Newfoundland and Labrador. We've got 11 producing mines in the province, 3 developing projects that have gone through the environmental assessment process, as well as others. As of recently as Thursday of last week, Newfound Gold submitted their environmental assessment through proper government channels, and others in the works. So, there's more than a dozen commodities which are produced in this province, and just the potential of what we have here when you look at mineral commodities and mineral occurrences, it's very positive and optimistic.
Yeah, and I know the MineX conference just a while ago. I spoke with Jordan Brown up in Labrador City. Still remembering his days as an MHA versus the mayor there now. Mm-hmm. But obviously the optimism is great. It just feels, what kind of impediments are there right now? Is there a kind of you mentioned we have either the focus right now on the MOU with Churchill Falls. We have the focus on Beta Nord. Are you content with the light that's on critical minerals right now? Are we on top of it? Like, are we ready for, well, God knows what? As the federal government, we know, is kicking the tires everywhere around the world and landing some projects and trying to gain interest in internally within Canada as opposed to the trade outside. And then you have issues with steel, the sectorial tariffs coming out of the United States. How much of all of that is feeding into your planning and for projects into the future?
Well, I mean, I think it's without doubt that in terms of, and I'm going to go big picture here, any further economic growth and development in Newfoundland and Labrador requires power. It's the energy infrastructure. So that is an impediment to growth right now. It's a critical path point. So our industry needs power. That's, I think, been made very clear, and we've been having ongoing discussions, with the province, with Hydro on that. We've got a number of projects, in particular Labrador West, in the Labrador Trough, high purity iron ore district, that requires power, whether projects want to expand, they want to decarbonize, they want to develop, they need power. So no power, no projects. It's really that simple. Yeah. And the other point to that is, and I think it's a point that's not really being discussed also in the province, is the governance around power accessibility. Industry needs to be shovel ready in order to begin that governance process with putting requests forward to Hydro, and then which moves along to the Public Utilities Board, and I think we really need to be looking at that higher level governance structure also. As a province, we need to be agile to ensure that our projects have power, they have these critical energy infrastructure to be able to move forward with projects. Timing is imperative because it's to your earlier point, we play in a global market, geopolitical uncertainty. So any uncertainty with it causes risk to investment, and that's a concern that we have so that we're very optimistic, and certainly we have the products that are required, but we need to make sure that we have that energy infrastructure and system in place so that it can get to our projects to be able to move forward.
Yeah, the power, as you mentioned, I guess primarily we'd be talking about that third line, and that's another topic. I'm sure I'm going to want to have you on for another time because there's just so much on the bone here as we lead up to the news. But let me ask you this, just as far as current news goes, just your take on the current situation with IOC. Is this another, I've watched it for long enough, for 30, 40 years. Is this just another cyclical bump in the road, or is there something more significant here as far as the slowdown goes, in your opinion? Or from what we know?
No, in full disclosure, Rio Tinto IOC has been a long-standing member of Mining Industry NL as an industry association. The deposit was discovered in 1892. It's been a multi-generational, high-grade, low-impurity iron ore project. What's been communicated to us has been what's been communicated, I think, internally to their staff. And I know that they've put out a public statement, but, they're currently focusing on safe and efficient operations. They're looking to get their costs under control. So they have communicated that they want to make their business more stronger. So the other point that I'll point out is that industry, our operators obviously put forward development plans, to the province. And at the end of 2025, they would need to report to government, to the regulator, what their plans are, what their production guidance is going to look like for 2026. And then early in 2026, usually around February, they have to report back on their activities from 2025. When it comes to Rio Tinto IOC, they've been consistent with the range of their production. So they've been saying 15 to 18 million tons of product, and that product includes concentrate as well as pellets. Right. In 2025, their production totaled 15.9 million tons. And in 2024, they were at 16.1 million tons. So they have, for the last 2 years, been within that range that they have been forecasting. And the forecast that has been shared is that they're still within that 15 to 18 million tons. Okay. Now, granted, it's below nameplate, which is the production capacity, which gets stamped, for the operations.
But there's a consistency. Yeah, it seems to be a consistency there, though, at least, stability consistency as opposed to a drop-off.
Yes, and I think that that's important for people, to realize is that forecast, it's a range, and they've been consistent. Their production guidance still remains within that 15 to 18 million tons. It may more likely be on the middle to lower end of that range, but that's what the company has put out right now. They're looking to address, pit conditions, which looking at basically moving waste material that has been not addressed for the last couple of years. So they've got to address that first before they can, move ahead with ramping up their productions.
Well, look, again, as I said, knowing that the clock was inching up against 11, there's so much more that I'd love to discuss with you, and there'll be more timely topics, absolutely, I imagine. This was, as you mentioned, kind of like a higher level, broad stroke, so we could just get into it. But I'd really welcome you back anytime on the show, and we'll call you when we need to. Of course, there's always things pertinent in the news, but we'll give you another shout out and continue this conversation at another time, at your leisure, at your convenience, I hope.
Yes, thank you. My pleasure. Always happy to come and chat.
Really appreciate it. It's such a big issue like this. We can talk about all the prongs in our financial, in the economy, and mining is certainly there. So thank you again, Amanda McCollum, the Executive Director of Mining Industry NL. All right, off to the news. We'll be right back.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
And welcome back to Hour 3 of the Tuesday edition of Open Line. Right to line number 2. And Andrew Murphy, VP Communications Marketing with the East Coast Trail Association. You're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. How are you today?
Morning. How's it going? And thanks for being available. How's everything?
Oh, things are going along pretty well, actually. Yeah, it's springtime in Newfoundland, and getting excited to get on the trail.
Yeah, I don't know what it might be a little chilly one today. You'd want to dress for the. She's gusting.
It's all about layers.
Oh, it is all about layers. I've done the Cape Spear to Maddox Cove, and I've always wanted to do the whole thing. That's as much as I've been able to get in the past few years, and enjoyed every bit of it. But I haven't had a chance to do the whole thing yet, and which is on my bucket list, which shouldn't be such a big thing. I mean, it takes a little bit of time and planning, and of course, and safety and all those other good things. But let's see. Let's talk first about the Trail Raiser, the East Coast Trail Raiser 2026, as opposed to the fundraiser. I like the title and the marketing, which I imagine has all your handiwork over it. Tell me all about it.
No doubt. We're pretty excited. Trail Raiser, it's the East Coast Trail Association. It's the 25th year that we're doing this annual fundraiser. And we change the community that we hosted in, or that hosts us every year. This year it's in the town of Mobile, and it's on June 6th, which also happens to be International Trails Day. This year our goal, we're looking to raise $100,000, and that really goes into the maintenance and upkeep of the trail that we've all come to know and love, which is now to its 32nd year, actually. So, right now we're in the process of, really assessing the trails, and the first place where that goes, the money goes, is into really maintaining and opening up the trails after the winter.
Yeah. So how does that work? So do you actually have a date that a group will go and just walk the entire thing, or how do you do that assessment before anyone else gets on it for a season?
Well, like you said, the weather's not quite so welcoming yet, so we do start early. The past week, we have a couple of our own trail crews that go out, as well as a number of volunteer custodians. And we start inventorying basically the state of the trail after the winter. And, this year we're looking at current count as being about 1,600 to 2,000 blowdowns, which is the trees that fall down over the winter in the winds. So that's significantly higher than what we normally have had.
That's really interesting. I mean, I don't know if it's an accurate reflection of weather and patterns or whatever, but certainly that speaks volumes. How much would you normally see in a normal year?
Yeah, it's probably about 4 times, 3 to 4 times as much as we have been seeing. So it's a significant impact, and really, you can, in terms of the impact on the association's ability to, absorb the work required to clear such an increase in the regular maintenance, and is almost like municipalities planning their snow clearing budgets for the year. So this is a big hit to us. So you can't plan it. The weather does what it does, but it does increase, and seems to be going in step with the climate change.
It certainly increases the value of this trail raiser each year.
Exactly, and it really, it's an excellent point, because every bit of that extra work, then, it's a trade-off in terms of actually doing the maintenance and upkeep on the bridges and boardwalks that, desperately need to be assessed and updated as often as possible.
Beyond, say, weather damage, are you, and I say parenthetically, disappointed, or what's been the view of damage on the trail? Like, beyond weather, sadly, vandalism is not, we're not, immune to it. How has the trail been that way?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is the wear and tear of the trail. It's the East Coast Trail is 336 kilometers of coastal wilderness hiking trail, and a lot of the infrastructure has been there, since the beginning, and most of it, we try to assess what the worst parts are, but this is work that is done by a completely volunteer run and led organization, and it's every year it seems like there's more work to be done than the year before, and it's why Trail Razor is so important, because every kilometer trail that you may have walked or wanted to walk, it's been maintained by hand, by volunteers, with the help obviously of a small crew of trail workers that we enlist every year and who show up and do the best job that we can. But it's the people that fall in love with the trail, that get out there every year and use it and hike it and run it. They're the ones that their donations, their volunteerism, and their assistance every year is what keeps it going. And this year, probably more than ever, we need people to show up and help us keep the trail going, and keep it free and clear and accessible to all of those that want to get out and use it.
Is there one section of the trail maybe that's sustained a little bit more damage or needs a little bit more work than another, like one that you would point to that really surprised you or just needs a lot of work over this year?
I wouldn't be able to really single one out. The work right now, obviously, I'll go back to what I was saying initially, was where the Trail Razor is being hosted in Mobile this year. We're starting the clearing and the trail, maintenance program in that area. So between Bay Bulls and Brigus South. So a lot of the blowdowns are focused on the southern shore, but we're clearing the way for the Micklings Path, the Beaches Path, Tinker's Point Path, La Manche Village, and Flamber Head first, and then we're going to continue north and south from there after those are secured. After June 6th in the Trail Razor. So given the amount, to put that in perspective, we're estimating that we should have the full trail clear of blowdowns by the end of June, if not early July.
Right. And can you qualify? Can you? Oh, absolutely. It always amazes me, too, how you manage to get the people and the equipment, into these remote areas, to be able to do the work. Doing the work is one thing, but actually just getting all of the supplies and everything that you need to that spot and then to begin the work always amazes me. Are you able to, say, quantify the cost? Like, do you have a number in mind that you need to really get to, and then we can wrap it up?
No, yeah, I mean, the cost. The Trail Razor is the pool from which we use that funding that fundraising amount to then multiply the amount of money that we have to work with through government agencies also, like the COA and things like that. So the more we raise, the more we can ultimately bring to bear. So that's really the goal here. And Trail Razor is how we do it. So the Trail Razor, it's happening on June 6th. And it's really it's a beautiful thing that typically we get a few hundred people out of all walks of life. And hiking, which is normally a really personal activity, it's a great way to get out and see a whole bunch of people out enjoying, the trail and hiking and really connecting as a community.
Absolutely.
And so, when you sign up for a Trail Razor, which you can do at eastcoasttrail.com, you're going to be able to choose any number of 4 hikes, and even this is the second year we're offering 2 trail races also, because that's becoming a very popular thing on the trail. And when you do sign up, you're also entering to win some prizes, which are pretty great, and we're going to be announcing some more options this week, but the top prize is a trip for 2 anywhere that WestJet flies. And so when you are registered, this is a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign. So you get a personal fundraising page. You can then share your link with your friends, family, other contacts. And every additional $50 you raise is another entry for you to win. So
wicked. Well, look, thanks for all that. I'm getting on it this year. Probably won't be today, but look, and I love how you said...
June 6th.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm eyeing it. I really am. I love how you said it's all walks of life, too. No pun intended. Andrew Murphy.
Exactly.
Thanks very much. VP Marketing Communications with the East Coast Trail Association. Thanks a lot, Andrew. Appreciate it. See you soon.
Thanks so much, Brian.
Okay, take care.
Yeah, see you soon. Bye.
Bye. All right, off to the break. We're coming back with Dr. Janice Fitzgerald, the Chief Medical Officer of the province, right after this. Welcome back to the show. Let's go right to line number one. And Dr. Janice Fitzgerald, the Chief Medical Officer of Health for the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Fitzgerald. Long time no talk.
Yeah, it has been.
Which, no offense, but that's, can be a good thing if we're not calling you up out of necessity.
I would call that a good thing, yes. I agree.
I hope that doesn't reflect, you don't have any, personal reflection on that. There's no reflection on yourself as a person, obviously. Look, we can talk about a lot of things, flu season coming to an end sort of thing. But, the questions we've been getting, and it's just amazing how maybe it's a good thing that people are really checking their sources this time, for the right information. And it looks like a lot of it coming out of the WHO, the World Health Organization, seems to be, look, this is not a new virus. It's not a novel virus as COVID was, of course, but people still want that reassurance. What can you say? And I'm really curious to know when you first got wind of this, whether it was just through normal news circles, what your first thought was.
Yeah, I think, obviously whenever we hear about something like this that's unusual and that we don't see very often, that we're always concerned. And I think, just the scars of COVID have made us kind of, perk our ears up and listen a little more closely and see what's happening. But I think, since the WHO has heard about this, since they've known about this outbreak, certainly there has been a lot of attention. People have taken this very seriously, and I think the response so far has been good, and we're, while it's not unexpected that we've seen cases related to this, on the from people who are on the cruise ship. I think certainly the work that has been done up to this point has been good to help contain things.
To help contain things, yes, but I mean in the initial stages, and I think I don't want to delve right into all the details, but I mean the consistent reporting has been, there were a lot of people who got off this ship before they knew what it was. Does that concern you?
Well, I think, unfortunately, people get sick and pass away on ships all the time, and I think I'm not sure what the situation, what people thought at the time. Obviously, we haven't been there, but the fact that somebody passed away on board a ship wouldn't necessarily trigger that, something, contagious or infectious was happening. There are many more reasons why people of that age may have an event and pass away. So I think, and because this virus can have such a long incubation period, right? You might not, it took case 2, case 3 before people realized, wait a second now, let's see what's happening, right? Yeah.
What would you say the biggest lesson in this one that we learned from COVID has been applicable here?
I just think, when I think about the work that has been done to repatriate people from this ship, I think we certainly learned an awful lot. In the beginning stages of COVID, we were doing a lot of repatriation from cruise ships. So there was a fair bit of deja vu there. So I think, the lessons we learned around that made this a very efficient and smooth operation this time around.
Yeah, and we've heard a lot of international reporting. I think people feel a comfort in hearing firsthand locally, how the perspective from locally and, of course, from the local authorities and the direct impact that it could have on Newfoundland and Labrador, just being, specifically to us. What would you say that to sort of reassure people that, the risks are low, as we've been hearing?
Yeah, so the risks are low to the Canadian population in general, and to us. There's been pretty extensive contact tracing. Anyone who was on those planes who may have been, people who left the ship earlier, there's been contact tracing for those people. They've looked at those flights as well and have been in contact with people there. There's a fair bit of work that's being done ensuring that we reach those people who could have possibly been exposed and not known it, before they traveled. The risk with this, like in general, hantavirus doesn't spread person to person. This particular strain can, but it does take fairly close and prolonged contact for that to happen. And if we think about it, the cases that have happened to date have been on, we're all on the cruise ship together, and it wasn't a large cruise ship, so it's a fairly small contained area where they were in fairly close contact with each other.
Yeah, so, just on the hantavirus, and then I just want to ask you generally about the flu season, but, so the lesson, I guess you want to just, in a very broad stroke, for people who are still have a little bit of worry, what would be the best encompassing reassurance you could give them, I guess? Just low risk, very rare, human to human. But I guess that was the thing for me. Initially, there seemed to be conflicting reports about whether or not it could be transferred human to human. Is that just because it took a bit of time to define exactly what type of virus it was?
Yeah, so you can figure out that it's the hantavirus, with a fairly quick test, but then to actually figure out what strain it is, you need a little bit more testing to do that. So once they found out it was this Andean strain, and that's the strain where we have seen person-to-person transmission before, then it was a bit of a different story, and obviously we had to take a different approach. And so, overall, the risk is low. People are still taking this very seriously. They're watching it very closely. We're following up with people who are on the cruise ship very closely. Anyone who gets symptoms is accessing care in a safe manner, and these all of these precautions are in place to prevent onward spread of that virus. And so, I think I understand that people may be scared, especially after COVID, and seeing something that we don't see very often. So I totally get that people would be anxious and scared about it. And just to say that we are taking it very seriously and following up and doing what needs to be done.
And I guess just for the record, there's no indication that there's any link or connection to anyone from this province that you're aware of, is there?
No, there's been nothing. The Public Health Agency of Canada has been following up with all the jurisdictions that have contacts that are coming home to those jurisdictions, and we've not had any indication that there's any Newfoundland contacts at this time.
Right. And just, if you want to, just before we let you go, flu season, given, there's talk of long COVID and all those sorts of things, how has the trend been since the COVID years, if I want to call them that? And is this like kind of a more normal year? Are we seeing any kind of bump in numbers or that sort of thing?
Yeah, so we did. I think I would consider this a fairly normal flu season. Last year was a pretty intense flu season for us, but this year has been a bit more what I would say normal. So we had a flu A peak earlier in the winter, and we've just sort of been moving through a flu B peak now. It seems perhaps we might be on the downward side of that peak. So we're seeing a decreasing in hospitalizations, and so that's a good thing. Hopefully, once we have this sort of second peak, that kind of flu peters out, and we don't see much else until the fall. Mm-hmm. We've been seeing a little bit of RSV in the past 2 to 3 weeks, so detections of RSV, but And again, that's not unusual for this time of year.
No, absolutely. And a decrease in hospitalizations these days, music to the ears of the healthcare system, that's for sure. Dr.
Yes,
Fitz,
sure.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I know you're not, there's nothing on your desk and you're not busy. So thank you very much for making time for the show today. No offense, but, unless there's something we just want to play up in a fundraiser or something, let's talk only when we have to.
Yes, absolutely.
No offense at all.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Take care.
None taken. All right.
Okay. Bye. All right, Dr. Janice Fitzgerald, always accommodating with her time for us and all the media and a wealth of information. Necessity. Let's take the break. Back with Jerry Earl with Nate right after the break.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
And welcome back to the program. Let's go right to the president of the Newfoundland Labrador Association of Public and Private Employees. Jerry Earl, you're on the line.
To you and your listening audience.
Thanks for being available. So, you're not in this jurisdiction right now, are you? Where in the world is Jerry Earl?
I'm in the central part of the country right now at what you recall as the Canadian Labour Congress, which brings unions from Newfoundland, Labrador, right across the country to BC together under one umbrella. 2,500 delegates here at this convention representing, 40, 50 different unions.
Whoa. So your hands are full and you made time for Open Line. I can just to tell you how much I appreciate that. I wonder off the top, can you shed a little light on what's happening with the Registered Nurses Union of Newfoundland Labrador today? The workers there, I believe they're members of NAPE, are on strike. Are you aware what's, I know you're up along, but I'm sure you're tuned in.
No, even though up along, I was involved in this to the wee hours of last night, working with the negotiating team there made up of NAPE members trying to avert this situation. Because first of all, so people understand, even staff that work for a union have a right to be part of a union, and that's not uncommon in any part of the country. Even staff that works for NAPE are represented by the UFCW, for example, and we enter into negotiations, and it's not uncommon. So, but in this case, the Frontline Bargaining Committee, made up of staff that work at RNU, have been working for a period of time now to try to reach a collective agreement through ongoing negotiations. Through conciliated efforts yesterday, late into the evening, they made best attempts to try to resolve this. But unfortunately, the management team from the other side has made a different determination, and we find ourselves now in a situation where the team consulted with the members there, had attained a strike vote, and if bargaining was unsuccessful, exercised their right under labour legislation to commence strike action, and that happened this morning.
Kind of out of the blue and a little unusual, because when we first got wind of this, and again, there was no notice, of course, normally we have these ideas that there might be some labour strife and something might be coming and push comes to shove, and it gets in the media because that can force the hand of one side or the other. This one was completely out of the blue and a little unusual because it's one union, yet your staff, it's a different union, yet your staff work for that union. It's just a interesting dynamic if you can put it into perspective for the public.
Yeah, it's quite a different dynamic, and something we always do as NAPE. And I know in my tenure, we had only one strike and one case where we had a bargaining unit locked out in Town of Paradise. So we make every effort in consultation with the frontline bargaining committees that sit at the tables to try to resolve issues and do them as amicably as possible. Sometimes there is no alternative but to speak about issues publicly and then take this action. And again, it's quite different. I've often found myself in many unique situations being in NAPE and the wide range of people that we represent in this province, but this one is quite unique when it's another labour organisation, and you're always hopeful that the skill of both sides will be able to avoid the situation. Unfortunately, this situation it hasn't, and like I said, these frontline workers, because they make the decision there's some 16 staff in that bargaining unit, and what they're concerned about this morning, as they were last evening, is in healthcare across the province, there's many nurses, in this case, the registered nurses and nurse practitioners, that these staff would service in the difficult work environments they're in, so they had to withdraw their service. So now the many staff across the province that work in healthcare do not have this support available to them as they run into issues. So they were quite concerned about that, sitting on can only understand the amount of thought that's put into before they made this decision to withdraw the service, and a difficult one to be in.
Absolutely. Okay, let me move on just real quick because I know you're busy up there as well. I'm just wondering, after being denied access to that contract, the Mediviv contract, is there any more clarity from the union? Have you been able to gain, are we just into the access to privacy stage now, or have you been able to get an understanding or any reach out with government as to, the lack of, for lack of a better word, transparency on this?
Absolutely no reach out from Newfoundland Labrador Service, which is the signatures contract, no follow-up from the provincial government, and we have gone the formal route now. We have already submitted now, as a requirement through the Act, a request from the Privacy Commissioner, so that is submitted. So we're waiting for a response to that now to see what the Commissioner will make a decision on. And then, depending on what that decision is, if it's favourable, we'll be okay. If it's not, then we would look at the next steps that we'd have to take.
It certainly seems, counterproductive and counterintuitive that the largest union in the province wouldn't be privy, or at least, you don't have to see, sensitivities and that sort of thing. You just need to know the bottom line so you can prepare your members.
Absolutely. And
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Brian. And that's what this is all about. This is about transparency. We represent the vast majority of emergency medical services in this province. Again, they do challenging work. After this contract was signed, we'd gotten a notification from I think initially that we're not directly out doing EMS, but they had done a billing component. We did not know. We were not consulted anyway until we got notification that their work was going to be turned over to this private entity. We want to ensure as a union those pieces that our members are protected, which are Newfoundlanders, Labradorians, and then I'm sure there's other areas. But you just said, if there's commercially sensitive information that's here for the protection of the public or whatever, that's not what we're asking for. We just want to identify in this document if there's areas that's being redacted that could impact or may impact the services that these incredible people, professionals provide, or that impacts Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, whichever right, because we're all covered in that aspect.
Yeah, and just look, whether it's this, whether it's the municipal funding curveball that towns and cities in the province have been thrown, I could list off a few more. We're getting close to a break here, but I just wonder what grade you would give this government. I know we could back in before Christmas we could say, look, they just took government and but certainly a clearer picture of the methodology, the kind of operations that the new government are taking. What grade would you give them on transparency, openness, all those buzzwords that they got elected on?
I'm concerned the areas I watch closely, because I watch governments closely. I've been through a few. I've been through, I think, my fifth premier or something now, multiple ministers. A great over. And then I had to look, for us, Brian, we have to look across the breadth of different departments, because we're seeing different things in different departments, which is concerning. Quite open and collaborative in some areas, very little contact in others, so we're not seeing that uniformity. So just out on transparency right now, I'm concerned. I'd certainly give them at this point no more than a C grade.
Well, they might take that. I'm sure some of them are going, oh, here comes the big F, but not an F.
Yeah. In my case, I had to compare it across many, many years, and I know what I face. So a C in my world is not great, but they may take it as a pass, but in my world, it's been critical.
Yep. Jerry Earl, I appreciate the time. Again, anytime. You know that, right? As most in the largest union in the province. The line is open for you 24/7, even though we're only here from 9 to 12. Good luck with your meetings.
Greatly appreciate it.
Yep, good luck with your meetings, and we'll talk again. Thanks again.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, take care. Okay, Jerry Earl there. Appreciate his time all the time, not busy at all. Let's take that final break of the morning, and we've got a few callers in the queue. We're going to go. Cecil's going to talk clear cutting versus logging. Craig on mining infrastructure, and Patricia is also in the queue right after the break. Welcome back to the home stretch. Yes, just a reminder, today is the official deadline for the census. So let's go right to line number 2, and Cecil, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Brian.
Morning.
Thank you for taking my call.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, I wanted to call in about this, and when I heard about it, first I'm not against logging. I'm against clear cutting. There's a huge difference there. And but when I heard that down in Port Blandford, the minister was just going to localize it instead of having it as a provincial issue, I really had this niggling in my head for the last 2 weeks, and I thought, well, I better call in and talk about it. And we all know the destruction and damage and everything that goes with clear cutting. But there's also selective logging. Like up here on the Northern Peninsula, you come up, you see all these piles of wood and that, but you still see a forest. You don't see these barren spots of land where nothing grows.
Yeah, swaths of just, barrenness, as you said.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought, well, as much as... because clear cutting in this day and age doesn't make sense. I think, as especially for a province that is working on increasing tourism, and the tourists like to go hiking, and they like to go in the woods, and they like to see the animals, and that to take it all away is certainly not a way to do it. Whereas, up here, if the tourists go hiking, they go on the trails, there's woods there, and you see all these piles of wood people have, and tourists ask about them and that, and, we tell them that. But, I mean, it looks like there's still a forest. It looks like it benefits everybody. It benefits us. It benefits the animals, the salmon streams, especially with warming weather, that, if you got a clear cut, it's just going to make it hotter for everybody. You're going to get the dry winds that are going to blow across it. It increases the chance of fires, and there is so much negativity associated with clear cutting that, we should not be doing it. We should be smarter people. I think as Newfoundlanders, overall, we're smarter people, and it should be a provincial issue, not just a localized issue.
Yeah, and you say smarter people. Well, some of the smartest minds in this province and the Court of Appeal just rejected the Citizens Against Clear Cutting argument before their court and sided with the minister. The Citizens Against Clear Cutting, this was about, as you mentioned, the approval of clear cutting in Port Blandford and Southwest River Valley, that area. And in the end, they sided with the minister, even though, the minister disagreed. There was, quote, significant public concern here. And the judges agreed. I guess it's that balance, is it not? I mean, we need... obviously you had to feed the pulp and paper industry, and there are other reasons, forest fire and otherwise, that there may be clear cutting and other logging operations. They have to find that, I guess, sweet spot of the necessity of it versus the damage, as you said, to the environment.
Yeah, well, I think they can do the logging, and they did it for years before, the government or whoever is doing the clear cutting bought all these machines, because they don't employ. All you got is a few. You might have 20, 30 people. You have a bunch of machine operators, a bunch of truck drivers, and the word logging doesn't even apply to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Other than the removal of the logs, but I mean, like, you've got nobody out there with chainsaws, nobody out there. A good logging operation would employ hundreds of people versus a few machine operators.
Yeah, and we're living in the age of technology and efficiency. And if a logging company can find a quicker, cheaper way to do it, they're going to do it, just like any company. If they can find a quicker, cheaper, and yet still get the quality that they want to get the job done. It's the way we're going, Cecil, I want to try to squeeze in at least another call. Do you want to just give me a little wrap-up? Sorry, I didn't want to give you too much short shift, but I certainly got your message.
Right, okay. This is the same as like when the draggers ruined the fishery, and my father used to work on the dragger, so I'm quite aware of what was happening.
Yeah, I see the parallel. Yep.
Yeah. And so the forests are going to be gone. Oh, in 50 years they'll be back. It's like we should be smarter and wiser, and it should be a provincial issue, not a localized issue. And I think Andrea Barber should step in there and say, yeah, we want a forest for people to come and see.
Yeah, I think it's Pleeman Forestry. I keep wanting to call him Pleeman Forestry, the minister right now, which is fortuitous. And we have put in calls, of course, to Andrea Barber as well with tourism, who's they're out of the house this week and in their constituencies in many cases. Cecil, I appreciate the call. Keep the conversation going. I'm going to try to squeeze in at least one more before the break. So thank you very much, and we'll put the call out to both ministers and see if we can get some more comment on that.
Okay, thank you, Brian. You're doing a great job.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for the call.
Okay.
Okay, bye. And let's see. Go to Craig on line 3. Craig, you're on the air.
Hi, Brian. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, but it's hard to keep the balance for everything.
It is. I say it mainly just to calm the masses, but it's a fine line, isn't it? And these days, you're right. It's tough to balance all of this. Someone's going to be a winner and someone's going to be a loser.
Yes, I guess so. I mean, obviously, Newfoundland needs a direction. We need a future. We need a vision. And we have all these opportunities, be it in tourism. I mean, we're comparing ourselves to, Iceland up there now. We're a smaller nation, more tourism.
And Norway, of course. Yeah, Norway and Iceland are always the go-tos.
Yes, and now here with us, I'm on the Vauvert Peninsula. We got the potential for a huge mining opportunity with Firefly and Newfound Gold and Bay Minerals and Shoreline Aggregate and a couple other companies. But we need the communities around the area need to start planning, because how can we bring in potentially 1,000 to maybe 5,000 people, if you talk about the service industries that are needed to keep a mine going and being productive and everything else. So the communities here, I'm waiting now for Vauvert task force report to come out. It was supposed to be released last month, but hopefully we'll get it here soon, to give, I guess, some of the residents the idea and the potential or what's going to be happening in the area. I mean, we're pretty positive, I guess, in the area for the region for mining development. We always have been and always will be. And we need to also take that opportunity and look towards the future, because if we're going to be taking the ore out of the ground, how come we don't smelter it here? It may cost a little bit more to put in a smelter, but you can have 4 or 5 mines delivering the ore to that smelter. So as the ore comes out of Firefly, it's going to go down to Pine Cove. There's going to be a dock down there. They're building a deep water dock. They already got one there. They're expanding on it. Now, between those two facilities, we could have a smelter producing the copper ore. And then from that comes secondary manufacturing. So there's opportunities for us to be developing our own products here in Newfoundland and Labrador for the long term.
Sure.
It's not just a quick mining, come grab, and leave. We need to look at what we can do with what's coming out of the ground and how to utilize it for the best opportunities for all Newfoundlanders. So I think that the government needs to be looking at that opportunity.
Yeah, Craig,
and
I'm just wondering too, is there not a mining conference coming up in Vauvert next in June?
There is in June, yes. It's Vauvert always had a great mining conference. There's going to be a lot of excitement, I guess, this year with the announcement of Firefly and all the drilling and results they're getting. So it's a very exciting opportunity. I mean, I'm working on my 15th apartment here now, getting it ready. We're getting calls for apartments before we get them finished. So, but we potentially need, hundreds and hundreds of houses developed here, and yet there's no subdivision slotted. There's no development for like land. As far as I know, there's no talk. You don't hear anything. Right? The community needs to be talking more. We need to be sharing more information within the community, so people in the local communities can prepare and take an opportunity that's before them and do something with it.
It's always interesting the way timing works out. I've got a caller in the queue, and I'm not going to get to, and Patricia, I hope you're listening. She's next in the queue, Patricia Russell. She's calling about prefab, like homes that she builds, prefab homes, as an idea of it. And I know there are other companies, Homeworks, around around locally, there are prefab opportunities there. Like you're not going to build houses overnight, but this is as close as you come. These smaller, compact prefab, they roll them in and they sit them down on the land. Maybe an option, not sure. I'm right up to the end of the show, though. I'll just give you 30 seconds to wrap there, Craig, and I hope we can talk again.
Yes. Well, I'm dealing with a company now called aircrete.com. You can look it up, and they make prefab homes.
There you go.
We're looking at possibly bringing in a factory, and setting it up here in Newfoundland, because Newfoundland needs apparently 10 to 60,000 houses, units, and Canada needs 3 million, and North America needs a lot more than that. So, I mean, again, it's just opportunity after opportunity. But we need to get the billions of dollars that are waiting for outside investors to bring that money in.
Absolutely.
The bureaucrats need to allow that money to come into Newfoundland.
Yep, and it needs to be built now, yesterday, not today. Craig, thanks for the call. I'm just past break, but listen, I appreciate it. Thanks for squeezing it in. Call again.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Have a great day.
Good luck.
Everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, take care. All right, that Craig wraps it for the day. That is it for Open Line for this Tuesday. Hope you all got a good taste of the info today. We'll see you all tomorrow. Drive safely. Arrive alive. VOCM cares.